What's up, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to the Fangirl Files podcast. I'm Sabrina Canoon, and it has been a while since you all have heard from me, and a while since I've sat in this chair and recorded for you guys. Last week, Madison and I were both very stressed out with school and dealing with some personal things, so we decided to take a break, and the week before that, you heard from her and her friend Kaylee about anime, and you heard their chaotic ramblings, and it was really fun. And then you guys had heard from me the week before that. So it's been a while, and this week I am flying solo because Madison is a little bit more stressed than me this week. Actually, that's not true. We were both equal levels of stress, and I probably shouldn't even be here, but I'm here anyway because I love you and you deserve an episode. So this week, we are going to talk a little bit about, and I'm going to preface this by saying, I wanted to talk about WandaVision and how I'm ready to eat my words because, oh my god, I finished binging. I decided to power through it, and wow. But I'm going to wait for Madison to catch up, and then next week, she and I can talk about that. This week, however, I'm going to talk about something we've kind of already talked about on the podcast, and that is the Queen, the legend, my idol, Miss Taylor Swift. So, for those of you who do not know, or do know and just need a little bit of a refresher, in 2019, Taylor Swift was signed with Big Machine Records. That was the record label in which she recorded her self-titled album, Fearless, Speak Now, Red, etc., 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 all the way through Lover, I believe. And it was all beautiful until Scooter Braun, bigwig music producer, bought out Big Machine Records with Scott Borchetta. For those of you who don't know who Scooter is, he is very popular. He discovered Justin Bieber, and at the time, I loved him because I was a big believer. Now, Scooter can suck a dick. However, Scooter and Taylor, due to her feud with Justin Bieber, and due to, her dislike of him, have had kind of a few falling outs. And Taylor is just not the biggest fan of Scooter. He's done her wrong several times. And so she has every right to feel upset that this man has now walked in to her record label and bought out the company that owns all of the copies of her music. And when she asks for them back, he denies her. And why should she stay in a record label that doesn't consider her wishes, especially since Scott Borchetta refused to inform Taylor, or neglected to inform her, that Scooter would be the one that he would be merging with? That is downright disrespectful to someone who has been with the label that many years, and Taylor had every right to do what she did and walk away. Now, when she walked away, there were several people who were on Scooter's side saying Scooter didn't mean any harm, he's not a bad guy, blah, blah, blah. And then there was the whole right side of Hollywood, in my opinion, the right community of artists, a lot of whom were female, saying, of course Taylor should own the rights to her own music. It's honestly disgraceful that she doesn't own the rights to her own music. So that was a whole rally in and of itself. Now, I personally do believe that Taylor should completely own her own music. It's much like the Call Her Daddy drama that occurred in May with Alex and Sophia not owning their own IP. Now Alex owns the IP. It's perfect. However, not to go all Call Her Daddy on you, I'm sleep deprived. I don't know why I shifted topics there. But that being said, when Taylor walked away, she promised herself and her fans that this would not be the last we would see of those albums. And I believe there were 7 albums that were produced under Big Machine Records. She said that would not be the last that we would ever see of those. I believe it was 6 because she is recording everything that happened before Lover. And she said that she wanted to re-release those as her own versions so that she would own the copies, so that she would have no affiliation to Big Machine Records whatsoever. And may I just say, that is some big dick energy. I mean, there are very few women in Hollywood who are willing to stand up to their older male superiors and say, fuck you, I'm gonna take my music, walk out the door, redo it myself, release 2 albums in a year while I'm doing this, and then re-release my hit single from 13 years ago and have it do just as well on the charts with just as much love. That is right, folks. For those of you who didn't know, just a few days ago, I believe it was Friday, February 12th, Taylor released her updated version of Love Story. It isn't updated in terms of lyrics or anything. It just simply belongs to her. And she announced that the Fearless Taylor's Version album would be coming out on April 9th. And I just have to say that I streamed Love Story over and over and over again. I felt like I was 8 years old in my mom's car, jamming out. It was a good time. But for those of you who watched the updated lyric video that she released, I think that Love Story became a lot more about the fans than it did the boy. Because in that lyric video, she didn't show anything from the music video. She showed pictures of her with fans over the years and over that time of her life during the Fearless era. And you could just see how much this song meant to her, how much this era meant to her, because Taylor was 15, 16, 17 years old when Fearless was recorded and touring and when she was writing it. And this song is but a very deeply vulnerable time in her life. And this album in its entirety is just a very vulnerable time in her life. There are so many songs that she said were being released from the vault, which is like the unreleased songs for those of you who don't know, that I'm so excited for. And I believe I'd Lie. I was trying to remember the title of the song. I'd Lie. I'm so excited for I'd Lie to be on record. It had better be on record. I need it. It's just the emotions from those songs. It's like I grew up singing them, but I didn't understand what they meant, and now I do. And now they're just that much more lovely and painful and beautiful. And I'm just so happy that they exist. And more than that, I just need to reiterate how much Taylor is a role model for young women and girls everywhere. We still unfortunately live in a society where women and girls are oppressed I'm still going to use the word oppressed. I kind of wanted to censor that out for a moment, but it's true. We are oppressed in certain ways still. We still don't have the rights to the things we create. We still get paid less than men. We still get lower positions than men. I've heard a story from a professor that I had just the other day, and she said that she had been working in a company for years, and there was a man who they had just hired to somehow be in a position above her, even though she had worked there for, I think, 10 plus years, and he was making more than her, and he burnt out of the company within a couple months. And it's just things like that, where Taylor is paving the way for this whole new generation of women to not stand for that anymore. And I think it's because of women like Taylor that things like that are going to slowly fizzle out and die. It is because of Taylor that women are going to stand up and say, no, I did this work. This is my work. Now give it to me and show me the respect I deserve. And honestly, she is not the only person. There are millions of books and movies out there that have been made or written over the last 10 years or so, even more than that, that just signify female empowerment. Like, I am in a female action heroes class right now. And it is the best class I've ever taken. And I'll tell you why, because we constantly are talking about gender and the importance of strong female characters and these gender cliches. And some of them are just disgusting cliches. Like, we are actually reading The Hunger Games, which is kind of why I signed up for the class. I've read The Hunger Games 4 times. And I'm going to talk about The Hunger Games a little bit because I find it funny that Taylor Swift recorded Safe and Sound for the Hunger Games soundtrack in 2012. But I think it's like, let's take Katniss Everdeen as an example. She, very much like Taylor, has faced depression. She was the breadwinner for her family. She volunteered to save her sister. She went into the games. She showed the Capitol that she was not to be messed with. She was sexualized as the girl on fire. She was underestimated, and she won. She started a revolution. She started a war. And she didn't give a damn about the men in her life, which is another thing about Taylor. So many people gave her shit for writing songs about men. But how many male artists out there are writing about women that they've fucked, about women that they've been intimate with, about women in general that are disgusting and sleazy, and yet Taylor's writing about, hey, this thing you did hurt me, and it annoys the shit out of me. And even now that she doesn't do that anymore, and she has Joe Alwyn, and has had him for, I think it's the past 5 years now, I think they just hit 5 years, and she still doesn't need Joe to be a complete version of herself, and it's very evident that that's the case in her songwriting. It is the same thing for Katniss, where, especially in the beginning 2 books, when she isn't aware that she's in love with Peeta, or she isn't in love with Peeta, or Gale, but we don't talk about Gale, because Gale's a fucking prick who killed Prim, and I don't like him, but even then, she doesn't care. When Gale asks her to make a choice between them, she does show love and care towards Gale. She does show love and care towards Peeta, but it doesn't dominate her life. It doesn't take up much of her mental space. Her mental space is, how can I help myself, and how can I help my family, and how can I make the world a better place? And that is very much so the attitude that Taylor Swift has. She's not trying to get back at Scooter. She's not trying to get back at Scott Brochetta. She just wants the rights to her art, and she wants to be respected. And that's why she chose to re-record her masters. And not to jump around here, but I think the most iconic thing she has ever done was her 2019 Grammy AMAs performance, where she came out in the jacket with all of her album names written on them. And then she ripped it off, and she came out and she sang The Man. And it was just the biggest clap back to power. Much like Katniss Everdeen, who, during Snow's execution, went and shot President Coin instead. It was just the biggest clap back to power, saving everyone. And in a way, Taylor Swift has done the same, and she has saved so many girls from heartbreak, so many girls from just unhappiness, and teaching them life lessons and self-worth in the same way that Katniss has, because Katniss doesn't sit down and take anything from anybody. Katniss is Katniss, and she is going to make herself happy, and she's going to keep herself alive. She doesn't need Peeta to save her or Gale to save her, and that is ultimately why Gale and hers friendships fail, because he doesn't listen to her. He only sees that she cares for Peeta, and that's all he cares about. He doesn't see beyond that. And honestly, you guys, this was a short and sweet episode, but I just wanted to say how proud I am of Taylor Swift and how excited I am for all of the albums to be re-recorded. Honestly, I'm so excited for Speak Now to be recorded. I love the Speak Now era. And I'm really sad she's probably not going to do Better Than Revenge. So, big sad boy hours. But I'm also not in the Speak Now era, but I'm also not ready for a longer version of All Too Well. That makes me want to cry. And actually crawl in a hole and die. So we'll see which one I do first. But I'm so proud, and just remember, females are incredibly empowering. it's very hard to talk for more than 15 minutes without Madison here. And also, I'm a little sleep deprived, but I did want to get something out for you guys. So, and we also did talk about Madison and I. We talked about the fact that most of y'all get kind of bored with us around the 30-minute mark. Which, like, I guess is fair. We go off and do a bunch of jokes of our own, and we kind of beat around the bush with the, hey, how are you? But, like, y'all just want to hear the good stuff. So we're going to give you the good stuff. So this was kind of an introduction to short and sweet. Hopefully we're going to do, like, half an hour to 45-minute podcasts for you guys from now on. I don't know. She and I have to talk more about that. But until then, follow both of us on social. Follow Madison on Instagram at Wolf Silhouettes. And follow me at Sabrina Canoun. So my last name is spelled Kenoun. Follow us on Twitter at the Fangirl Files Pod. Follow us on Instagram at Fangirl Files Podcast. And we will see you next Wednesday. Get the fuck out of here.